Welcome back to Travolting, covering Magnificent Desolation, Walking on the Moon, 3D. Enjoy the episode.
Jeff,
We choose to go to the moon, not because it is easy, but because it is hard.
Jeff, would you say that
One small step for man,
you took away the joke?
one
You took away the joke.
giant leap for podcast.
My joke was going to be, you think when we took that small step
Yeah.
back in January of 2020,
Yeah.
that we would have been making the large leap that we have now?
Yeah.
Because
folks,
it's not just a large leap metaphorically speaking,
leap.
but we are.
On episode 50.
We have made
Travolta.
a physically large leap.
That's right, folks. This is our 50th episode.
And what are we covering?
We're covering the least existent movie on this podcast. A 2005 IMAX documentary called Magnificent Desolation, Walking on the Moon, 3D.
Yes.
Yes.
A documentary about the moon landings
Yes.
and the astronauts involved in them. It's narrated by Tom Hanks and a lot of more of other people.
This is not only narrated by Tom Hanks, it's written by Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
Tom Hanks, huge fan of space. I remember there was an old Conan bit. Because Tom Hanks' his two favorite things are World War II and the moon landing. And Conan gave him a birthday gift, which was a painting of astronauts storming Omaha Beach.
I love that.
It's very silly. But yeah, this is a little Tom Hanks passion project that he put together. A little documentary for IMAXs and planetariums and whatnot.
Yeah.
About what the moon landings were and like how to inspire you to want to pursue science. It's for kids.
It is for kids. This is, I was talking to my roommates about this because they're like, what are you watching still? First off, it was in 3D. Like, I had to do the two screens.
Yeah, this okay.
I did not have the VR goggles on my phone.
The
to
only
watch
way
this.
to watch this online is in 3D mode.
DocumentaryMania.com.
Yeah, DocumentaryMania.com, where it is just it's set up like 3D, so it's two images next to each other.
Yeah.
So essentially, it's a widescreen image, but each half of the screen is the exact same like video playing.
Yes. You're supposed to like watch it on your phone. And if you have the VR add-on,
Yeah,
and you can watch on
combines them.
VR mode,
And it combines the two images.
just as the filmmakers intended.
Yeah.
Just as Ridley Scott intended.
Just as Nolan intended.
We're not out there watching The Last Duel because we're watching Magnificent Desolation of the 3D on our phone.
Walking on the moon.
Fuck you, Ridley Scott. Give the people what they want, you coward. Oh, shit.
Oh, God.
You know what? Good. I'm okay that Last Duel is flopping for Ridley Scott. It may be a good movie, but here's the bit. And I don't care if
I'm
Ridley
about to
Scott
fucking fight you right now.
I don't care if Ridley Scott's listening to this podcast. I watched a Hollywood Roundtable Directors episode where Ridley Scott was on, and listen to that man talk. He is I'm going to say this out loud in the public, and I'm not going to cut
Stuart,
this
I'm about
out.
to fucking fight you.
No. I'm going after Ridley Scott here.
Well,
I
I'm about to
like
fucking fight.
some of his movies.
I'm about to come
Don't
at
get me
you.
wrong. I
I'm about to
like some
come
of his
at you.
movies,
I'm about to
but
come at you.
Ridley Scott as a person
Is a hoot and a half.
is the epitome of old rich white Hollywood.
He rules.
That is Ridley Scott.
This is so disrespectful
He
to
literally
Ridley Scott.
said
This is so
in a Hollywood
disrespectful.
roundtable that there are too many directors and too many movies that get made.
Yes.
And you can
Did
argue...
you watch the interview with someone where they're like, a lot of people are interpreting your movie like this, and he's like, no, fuck you, that's not what it's about. I love this man.
Yeah, I just think that this guy...
He's 84. You got to respect the cojones.
He has such big cojones about himself that he is like a god amongst men for directors, and it's like, bro, like, I'm sorry, but like James Cameron can't even like really claim that role, and he has like some of the highest grossing movies of all time under his belt.
Yeah.
Like, you're a filmmaker, you're not God, you're not the president, you're not saving lives, you're making really good movies.
Do you know Ridley Scott's bit with how he shoots movies and why he continues to get to make movies?
How?
He does not believe in unnecessary work.
He just keeps it on time, under budget.
Ridley Scott, almost all of his movies come in weeks ahead of schedule
Yeah.
because he shoots every scene minimum 4 cameras. 2 takes. He is known. I think Alien Covenant came in 2 weeks ahead of schedule and like $10 to $15 million under budget.
You know, Ryan Johnson's another two-take director.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that can be like attributed to a directorial style, which is fine. That's cool. It's great to hear about. But from the interviews I've listened to this guy, he just like screams old, rich, white Hollywood.
That's very much what he is.
And like, I'm tired of the persona. I'm sorry. So when, the whole bit when he said like, oh, fucking millennials aren't watching The Last Duel because they're all glued to their phones. I'm like, fuck you, man. Like, yeah. Like, I'm sorry, your time has passed. Like, I'll say even the same thing about Spielberg, but at least Spielberg isn't like saying
Have
shit
you seen
about
West Side
it.
Story yet?
No.
Oh, it's so good.
I hear, but I also hear it's not doing great in the box office.
Because all the millennials are glued to their phones.
And Spider-Man.
Yeah, and Spider-Man. Spider-Man's about to make like $200 million opening weekend, and like West Side Story and The Last Duel barely creaked out like 10.
Do you think it's gonna outreach Endgame, Spider-Man?
No way.
You don't think so?
No, the pandemic's still happening.
That's true.
Older moviegoers are not going. The reason these movies are flopping.
It's because it's still pandemic era.
It's because it's still the pandemic, and like moviegoers who are going back to theaters are young moviegoers.
Yeah.
Older moviegoers who are usually like the bread and butter films like West Side Story, The Last Duel, and whatnot, aren't comfortable returning to theaters yet because their lives are still at risk.
Yeah.
Like if we get COVID, we'll probably be fine, but like it's more at risk to an older person still right now.
Yeah.
So that's why these movies aren't doing so well.
Well, when will that change? When will we get back to what it was before? Answer.
Number one, I don't know if we will.
Answer.
Number
never.
two, I think if the pandemic finally actually recedes next year, like, and here's the thing. We're getting to the point where everyone is going to have COVID. And so it's basically going to wipe it. I feel like it might wipe itself out within the next year or two. Because like
the problem is if
like
we keep doing all these half-assed vaccine measures, meaning like half the population gets vaccinated, half the population doesn't. Then half the population is protected, but the other half of the population keeps spreading it, and therefore it mutates.
Yeah.
And then infects the half of the population that was vaccinated that's no longer affected by it. Yeah. And then the other half are immune, but then as it's infecting the vaccinated people, then mutates into another variation, and then affects the people who didn't get vaccinated in the first place. Yeah. And it's just a never-ending cycle that will never end.
A magnificent desolation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just made myself really depressed.
Yeah, that was extremely downer.
But hey, remember when we went to the moon in 1969?
Yeah. This is also this is our second episode to come out in 2022. I was like, this is gonna be referred to. What a way to ring in the new year.
Be cool.
Be cool is. But yeah, this movie is not about the now. It's about looking back, taking a step back.
Yeah.
And trying to think about man's great accomplishments.
Yeah.
Specifically, the moon landing.
Yeah.
Which Tom Hanks says at the beginning, some jamokes think is faked. Tom Hanks is ready to fight some dudes at the beginning. He's like, these clowns think that we didn't land on the moon. I'm coming out and beat them up.
And his like Woody voice from Toy Story.
Yeah. He's like,
you are a toy.
Howdy, partner. I'm going to kick your ass.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, fun fact, this is the third, if you think about it, this is the third astronaut thing Tom Hanks has done. Because he did
Apollo 13 before this.
And he was involved in From the Earth to the Moon, the miniseries.
Do you have Apple TV?
I do not. Are you about to talk For All Mankind? Actually, I do have Apple TV. What am I talking about?
Yeah, For All Mankind.
Yeah.
Good show.
I've heard.
Good show.
I love the Moonlight.
They got 2 seasons out right now, and it's good.
Yeah.
I recommend it.
Oh, maybe I'll check it out.
Yeah.
I love the Moonlighting. I like this movie.
Invasion, on the other hand, not a good TV series. Apple TV, I just finished watching The Shrink Next Door with Paul Rudd and Will Ferrell. And it's so weird because what do you think of when you just don't even think about what the show's about, but you just see the 2 leads, Paul Rudd, Will Ferrell.
I mean, I've heard it's deadly serious.
Yeah. It's a very deadly serious show.
Yeah.
And it's very depressing. And it's Paul Rudd and Will Ferrell. And I don't know how to like watch it. Like I don't know what state of mind I should be in because it's such a conflicting vibe of a show.
You're sure watching a lot of Apple TV Plus recently. It's almost like you have a vested interest
in
Apple TV Plus's success.
Might be a show coming out between March and June next year. Might have some people in it.
You might know some people.
That I know. Anyway, I don't want to talk about that right now.
You mean when you look in the mirror, you might know some people?
Oh, yeah. That, of course, that as well. You know, not like we have a fan who listens to our podcast.
Who might have been on that show. Anyway.
Hope you're doing well, Maddie, by the way.
Yeah. Hi. Magnificent Desolation.
I hope she doesn't listen to this episode.
We landed on the moon. Yes.
Not because it is easy,
but because it is hard.
but because we have the filmmaking technology to fake it.
Yes. So Tom Hanks' passion project puts this thing together. It's directed by...
Not Spielberg.
No, not Spielberg. Directed by Mark Cohen, who doesn't even have a Wikipedia page. So I don't know who he is.
If he got Spielberg his friend to do it.
Spielberg's already done enough for him. They did Band of Brothers. They're doing Band of Brothers in the Pacific around this time. They're busy enough together.
Evidently not busy enough.
No.
Tom Hanks wants to do another fucking series.
This is when Spielberg's doing 3 movies a year.
Yeah. It was busy. Busy boy.
Busy guy.
Busy boy.
So
back when he was making good movies.
He's still making good movies. Have you seen West Side Story?
Oh,
we just established you hadn't.
Oh yeah,
it's great.
Is it just as good as The Post?
I would better. I would consider a capital M masterpiece. Capital M. Big M. I'm drawing a big M.
Better than E.T.
Ooh, I don't know about that one. E.T.'s pretty good.
Oh, is E.T. better than The Post?
Actually, no, it is better than E.T.
See, folks.
I'm forgetting.
I want you to pay attention to what Jeff is doing right now. He is deliberately saying this just to get under my skin, but ultimately he means better.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, Tom Hanks puts this together, and he's like, you know what? I want to kind of get as many people as possible and talk to them about the moon.
Well, he gets the entire Apollo 13 cast in.
Yes.
Gary Sinise.
Is Gary Sinise in?
Oh yeah, Gary Sinise is in this.
I don't think.
Yeah. He is.
He is. As is Bill Paxton.
Yep, Bill Paxton. They don't bring Kevin Bacon in it though.
How fucking dare they, dude?
But they do bring in a
lot of people.
Matthew McConaughey.
So he gets everyone every single famous person to come into this and record one line of dialogue.
What do you think his relationship with John Travolta is at this time? Because they've never done a movie together.
He probably just called him up and was like, "Hey, John, you want to be in this movie?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I love that."
One of those Austin Powers
like,
Gold member things.
That's just fantastic. I'd love to do that.
One of those Austin Powers Gold member things where he's like, "Oh, who's gonna be it? Bill Paxton? Oh, Matthew McConaughey? Oh,
I realized I've never really done a Travolta impression on this show. That's just fantastic. That's my impression.
I think we found out why.
Yeah, it's not good. Okay, so the cast of this movie: Tom Hanks, Bryan Cranston, Matt Damon, Morgan Freeman, Scott Glenn, Colin Hanks, Tim Matheson, Matthew McConaughey, Neil McDonough, Paul Newman, Bill Paxton, Barry Pepper, Gary Sinise, John Travolta, Donnie Wahlberg, Rita Wilson. It's crazy. Big cast.
Like, this is gonna be a short episode because how are we gonna talk about the plot?
So the movie starts.
But like, they talk about
to anyone who's ever been to like a planetarium and you went to see the IMAX film that they were showing, it's literally one of those. It's like,
have you ever been to a state museum where they have
movie's
an IMAX?
Honestly only like 30 minutes. 15 minutes of it are previews
commercials
for 3 TV programs.
Yeah.
So this is NASA funded. NASA's involved in the production of this movie.
Of course they are.
Yeah.
NASA funded the movie that was called The Moon Landing 1969.
Stanley Kubrick directed.
Because we never went there.
We never went to the moon.
Actually,
Tom Hanks is on his way to beat your ass right now.
You know the funny joke with like Kubrick directing like the moon landing?
Yeah.
Is that he would honestly want to shoot on location?
Yeah. It's good.
But also in real life, folks, the reason why we could not have filmed the faking of the moon landing is because we didn't have the film technology to fake the moon landing.
Mm-hmm. There was some study done a few years ago about how many people would have to have covered up the moon landing had it been faked.
That's the whole thing with like government conspiracies for me.
And it's like the total amount of people who would have to have kept it completely quiet and not provide like incontrovertible proof is 300,000 people.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people.
and there's a ratio between like how many people you can get to keep a secret versus people who will eventually tell people, and it's just physically impossible.
Yes.
That's why I don't really believe in most conspiracies, government conspiracies, because it's like, like depending on how big the operation is, like if we had aliens at Area 51, you cannot tell me one of the guards would not talk about it in a bar to a girl.
And then of course they're like, but this guy did talk about it, and it's like, whatever.
Yeah, great. So, yeah, I mean the movie starts and it's all about the moon landing.
Yeah.
Cool. Any context, post context? I mean, for real though, because honestly, I mean, yeah, they talk about like.
I mean, Tom Hanks does ask, "Would you go to the moon?"
And they have they do a little bit where it's like some kids these days don't even know.
Yeah, it's a bunch of little kids being like, "I don't know
who went to the moon." They're like, Lance Armstrong.
Yeah, one that says Lance Armstrong.
Yeah,
sad.
Very sad. Yeah. But it's just educating about how the moon landing was. Like, the Apollo 11 spacecraft had less memory than a pocket calculator.
Yeah. Tom Hanks is like, some of us do want to go to the moon. It shows him in Apollo 13, like in the spacesuit, hyping himself up.
Imagine.
He calls the moon landing mankind's greatest road trip at one point.
Can you disagree?
No, not at all.
Yeah. Just taking a step back from like movies, at least at the time frame. Apollo 13 was 90.
I think it was 97, wasn't it?
Yeah. That makes sense.
Let me confirm this.
But it's like when they were starting to do like the zero gravity effect.
It's a 95.
This was when they were doing the zero gravity plane thing.
Yeah.
I mean, nowadays we have the technology and we have the wiring rigs to mimic zero gravity on a soundstage.
Mm-hmm.
But like, imagine those early days when we were making space movies where we had to get into a plane.
Yeah.
And they had to drop down at a certain acceleration to mimic zero gravity. Mm-hmm. And that was the amount of takes you could get. There's a whole thing with Apollo 13 where they have this like trivia bit where you could get, I think each take you could do of zero gravity, you could only do 20 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they did like so many amount of days.
Yeah.
I'm just going to fucking look it up. They had like a certain amount of days they could do it, and they had a combination of like 200 minutes of zero gravity footage. Yeah. 200 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, how long is the movie?
Yeah.
Like, not that much shorter. So you just can imagine it's like how many takes you're allowed to get, and like, good God, like thank God for technology now. Can you imagine being like an AD on that project?
Yeah, that'd be insane.
It'd be insane.
I do want to say, like, the thing about this movie, for me, is I love space.
Oh, yeah.
And I love the moon landing.
Yeah.
This movie almost made me cry.
Really?
Yeah, just watching, like, the moon landing, it always gets me.
How old are your parents?
61.
So were any of them old enough to watch moon landing?
Yeah, they were very young. But
my dad was 15. Or, wait, let me check. He was born in 1955, so he'd been 14.
Oh.
So he has very vivid memories of the moon landing.
That's very cool.
Talks to me about it a lot. So this is really cool.
That is actually really cool.
Yeah, so...
you know a movie actually does one of the best moon landings?
What?
Transformers Dark of the Moon.
No! End the podcast! End the podcast! Shut the recording off. But can
We talked about this in our episode on... I believe Carrie? One of our first like 3 or 4 episodes we talked about this. But the opening 5 minutes of Transformers Dark of the Moon on the moon landing, and they find like a Sentinel Prime spaceship on it, but like it doesn't matter. But
right.
Hey.
So, no, I just found the trivia bit on Apollo 13.
We'll get back to it.
Okay.
Like the
I'm sorry. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Bless you.
I'm dying. No, I'm fine. But at the opening of Transformers Dark of the Moon is the moon landing. And like it just starts off with like the swelling music as like we start with JFK and we move through the whole cycle and the astronauts are slowly learning the process. And then like they go to the moon and they find a Decepticon or whatever. But then we cut back and it's them landing and Nixon's giving this like roaring speech. Transformers 3, really good opening about the moon landing.
Cool. So on Apollo 13, here's a trivia bit.
We're talking about anything but this.
The cast and crew flew about 612 parabolic arcs in NASA's KC-135 airplane, nicknamed the Vomit Comet. Mm-hmm. Each arc produced 20 seconds of zero gravity. All these flights were completed in 13 days.
Yeah.
Wow. The actual KC-135 used was decommissioned in 1995 after 22 years of service. So you had 612 essentially takes, each of which 20 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they said there was another piece of trivia here that said they got about a certain amount of footage. Where was that? They don't have that in that trivia bit, but it was only like they had just. I mean, you do that math. 20 seconds times how many parabolic flights did I just say?
A lot.
612. So let's do the math here. 20 times 612, 12,000 divided by 60 for minutes. That's 204 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you have 3 hours and 20 minutes of weightlessness footage. Like, granted, in the movie, they cut back to Houston a lot.
Yeah.
In the control room with Gene Kranz and all those folks. Also, by the way, can we talk about who's the actor that played Gene Kranz in Apollo 13? He was also in The Truman Show. What's his fucking name? Ed
Harris.
Ed Harris. Best casting of Gene Kranz in any single goddamn.
Didn't he win the Oscar for that?
Did he in Apollo 13 for Gene Kranz?
Oh wait, no, he was nominated. He won for The Truman Show.
Because there have been other.
Also, that was disrespectful to Ed Harris. You being like, "Who's that guy who played Gene Kranz?" It's like, oh fuck, you forget Ed Harris, bitch.
I'm sorry, I said Ed. I knew it was Ed something. But there have been other actors who have portrayed Gene Kranz, and no one has ever done it better than Ed Harris.
He's the best.
Yeah.
Ed Harris is the best. Have you ever watched? Did you watch any Westworld?
I watched first 2 seasons.
The first season's really good.
First season is pretty
Ed
good.
Harris is in that show.
Second season?
I did not like the second. I started and did not finish.
Got a little on the deep end.
The first season ends perfectly.
Yes.
Like, that could have been the ending of the whole show.
I agree.
Anyway, Ed Harris is in as the Man in Black. He signed up because he was going to play a cowboy in the show. He's now been stuck for 4 fucking seasons, playing like some rich entrepreneur in a sci-fi setting. He has talked about how he hates doing it, does not enjoy the process or the character.
Because his character in the first season was
great,
awesome,
and it's like he just wanted to play a little cowboy, and now he's stuck doing this
4
sci-fi
season
show.
contract, bro.
Like, I saw they renewed.
brutal.
They renewed it for like a 4th or a 5th season. I can't remember which.
Brutal.
And I saw, and there was just a tweet that said, "My apologies to Ed Harris."
While we're on this tangent train about like moon landings and shit, you know, when I talk about my dad and him watching the moon landing, so he also has like sort of a reverence for the moon landing and stuff.
Yeah.
So one of our favorite movies to watch together is Apollo 13.
Great movie.
It's a great movie. Have you seen Damien Chazelle's First Man?
I have not. I've heard it's good.
It's okay.
Mm.
It's his best movie he's ever done is Whiplash. Take that for what you will.
Yeah.
It's better than La La Land. I'll say that. I could probably rewatch First Man. I could not rewatch La La Land.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not to say La La Land isn't a good movie. I'm just saying the rewatchability is very low for La La Land. But First Man, which is about the Neil Armstrong and the whole moon landing. Neil Armstrong is the main character played by Ryan Gosling.
Yes.
Not to, I mean, you can't really spoil First Man because
he lands on the fucking moon. That's it.
They went to the moon, but the whole thing
What
is.
if the twist was they didn't?
Well, no,
like they failed.
The whole thing is about
him getting over the grief of losing his daughter, right?
Yes, and it's all paralleled with the horrific tragedies that took place during the Apollo missions.
Yeah,
because like. I mean, a lot of people know, but they never really talk about how many people died during the early Apollo missions. Like, not just like
it's Apollo 11 that went to the moon. There were 10 before that.
Yeah, and some of them, like a lot of them, just went to space. Some of them just took a trip around the moon. But there were some rockets that didn't get off the crash pad that blew up, and not even that. But then, like the testing, like there were people who died in like the testing stages of it, and like the. And just multiple other engine failures and things like that. Like so, and the whole movie in First Man is all like centered around all this tragedy.
Yeah.
Like with Neil Armstrong's personal life and NASA and their horrific incidents that are killing the astronauts and all this stuff. And eventually they get to the moon.
Yeah.
And then he steps down off this ladder. He says like one small space for man. And it's all like there's no music behind anything.
Yeah.
But then as he gets down, he touches his boots on the ground. The music swells up. And you think he's going to turn around. It's going to be this grand moment where he's on the moon. And it's like going to be like, oh, we did it. He turns around. The music goes dead quiet. And all you see is just Empty moon.
Magnificent Desolation.
My dad and I were watching this. We walked to a theater, and he said the perfect phrase. So shout out to you, Don Elmore. He said that was the anti-Apollo 13.
Mm-hmm.
Because that took what we would consider our greatest achievement, but it's surrounded by grief, pain, and sadness. Whereas you take Apollo 13, a movie that's about our greatest failure, but surrounded with optimism and heroicism and like the people on the ground that saved the astronauts. And it's such a interesting, like, I never forgot it when my dad said that. I thought that is so true.
I need to watch First
Anybody who watches First Man, just like keep that in mind that it is the anti-Apollo 13.
Yeah. I need to watch that movie.
So, Magnificent Desolation.
Yeah. Getting back to this.
I mean, like, I mean, we can probably do this all day, though, Jeff,
I have like half a page of notes of this.
Well, I don't have any notes. So,
half a page.
Like, list you off your notes. And
I said, moon landing makes me want to cry. Tom Hanks says, time has dimmed the impact of man on the moon. And I was like, that reminds me of Interstellar, where they're like, the moon landing didn't happen. It was just a scheme to bankrupt the Russians.
Yeah.
I wrote Muppets from Space because at one point he shows the poster of Muppets from Space for some reason. In all caps, Bill Paxton, because he comes back. He voices Edgar Mitchell, and he does his Bill Paxton thing.
Rest in peace, Bill Paxton.
Yeah, rest in peace.
Taken away from us too young.
Yeah, it was terrible. And then I wrote in all caps, guess who comes up for one line dialogue?
John
Travolta as Jim Irwin, one of the men who walked on the moon.
Apollo 15.
I should have really written the line that he said because it's only
sort
one
of
line.
the sleeper Apollos.
Yeah, the sleeper.
People remember Apollo 11, Apollo 13.
Yeah,
and that's
about it.
That's about it.
But
which is unfortunate, by the way.
Yeah,
because guess what? It was only Apollo like 15 through 17 that did the lunar rover.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But Travolta says some sort of line about he's like, and I gazed upon this, and it was just great. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
That's his appearance.
That's his only line.
But you know what we do gotta do? You gotta rank the hair, Stuart.
No, I don't. No,
cue the music.
No. All right. Well, welcome to the hair ranking, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So my question for you, Stuart, are we ranking the absence of hair in this movie?
I guess put it at the bottom. Or, wait, what's at the bottom? Read the bottom five.
The bottom five. The bottom five are Our Friend Martin, which is higher than Devil's Reign, The Experts, Battlefield Earth, and I think you might like
Put it below Our Friend Martin, above The Devil's Reign.
So I'd like to point out...
No hair is better than bad hair.
Yeah, so this movie in which John Travolta does not appear, nor does an Avatar in which he portrays appear. Because we don't see Jim Irwin when he says this.
Yeah. And even if we did, guess what? He'd be wearing a helmet.
Better hair than Battlefield Earth, The Experts, and I think you might like it.
Never say I think you might like it on this podcast ever again. That just brought back some
Stuart,
PTSD.
I thought you might like it.
No.
That was the hair ranking. Okay. So we got Travolta appears. And then it's just basically a lot of Tom Hanks like describing like, there's fail-safe measures involved in the moon landing. It's something we're going to go. But thankfully, we never had to use them.
Yeah.
And there's like a little dramatized thing of two astronauts who can't hear each other and their rover dies.
Yeah.
And then the last bit is Scott Glenn, who is voicing
I have a tangent I want to go
Charles
after you
Duke.
finish this bit.
Talking about like he's just reciting how Charles Duke as an astronaut flew to the moon. And then he took a picture of him and his family that was signed by his children.
Mm-hmm.
And he put it on the surface of the moon and contemplates to himself, I wonder this image is here for all time. I wonder what will happen. Who will find this? What will they think? I'm leaving a bit of myself on this moon. And it was very touching. It's very effective, except, Charles, I got some bad news for you. The radiation of the sun has absolutely erased that image and all the writing on it.
Oh.
It is now just a piece of paper lying on the moon.
That's sad.
I'm sorry to let it know. He has this big emotional thing. He's like, I wonder what they'll think when they find this and find my family and my writing. I'm like, Charles.
It's just a blank piece of paper now.
Charles.
Well, that's
because the flag is a fucking white flag.
That's what happened
now.
to all of our American flags that we put down is they all turn into just white flags.
Yeah, like if you put it in a little box, maybe left it there.
Or would putting it in the shade matter at all? Like,
it rotates.
Yeah, I guess so.
You have to put it on the dark side of the moon, or you could just get a little metal box, put it in that, and then just you don't have to lock it, just close it up.
Yeah.
But no, that image definitely no longer
Okay,
exists.
so here's my tangent. You remember the movie Gravity, right?
Good movie.
Decent movie. Pretty good.
Good movie.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue. Like, it's pretty good. But all about Sandra Bullock getting stuck, without a tether, and then George Clooney, who has a jetpack, saves her, and all that good stuff. Have you seen the Netflix series Love, Death, and Robots?
No.
It's a short film anthology series.
Yeah, David Fincher produced it, right?
I don't know if David Fincher produced it.
I believe he did.
He might have. I don't know. But it's kind of like a Black Mirror-esque show, but it's all animated. Well, there's one episode that's kind of like Gravity.
Yeah.
Where it's like the essence of like an astronaut doing maintenance on a satellite. But instead of like her shuttle or ship getting destroyed by debris, she just simply gets separated for some reason.
Yeah.
And is like floating off out of space without a tether or a jetpack.
Yeah.
So here's what she does. You ready for this?
Yeah.
She ties a tourniquet around her left arm, for the astronaut suit, and then unclips the arm piece of her left arm, takes it off,
and uses
her hand immediately freezes up into like an ice cube.
Yeah.
But then she throws the glove, like the arm piece, to give her negative momentum.
Yeah.
So she can actually fly back towards the ship, which I thought, that's actually kind of genius.
Yeah.
And I think that's how it would work in real life too. Because you can't like swim in space, but you can if you have another object that you can like throw with force.
Yeah.
It would have a negative force on you. So she starts to fly back. Granted, she has one arm, really.
Yeah.
And she tries to grab like the ship, and she misses.
Mm-hmm.
She's once again floating out in space. So what does she do now? She looks at her arm. She grabs it with her astronaut right glove hand, rips it off.
Mm-hmm.
Like she actually 127 hours her arm.
Yeah.
And rips it off and throws her arm to get the negative force to get a second try, and this time she grabs the shuttle and gets in.
That's gnarly.
Which I thought
Did you know that light actually has propulsion to it?
Yes. That's why we can do solar sails.
Yeah. Like if you were to be in space and you had a big enough flashlight, it would give you propulsion.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. How big of a flashlight?
Like
though?
fucking massive.
Yeah, probably. But that's why
or just something that has a lot of power to it, like million Ks or something like that.
Yeah.
But like if you had enough light,
is it like in lumens or whatever that would be the force measurement?
I suppose so. I'm not exactly sure, but I know that if I went to space and I had a extremely powerful flashlight and I held it in front of me, it would give me propulsion. Which is cool.
In the show For All Mankind, they do bring guns on the moon.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how that would work.
I guess, it would just fire endlessly. That's what happens in Ad Astra as well. There's like a little lunar chase on the
But
moon.
like, if you have a gun in space, you know, the firing pin strikes the shell, which sparks the powder and shoots out the bullet. But there's no oxygen in space.
Yeah.
So can you even get a spark to ignite the powder in general?
I would not know.
I don't think you can. I don't think guns would work in space.
You'd have to have a special type of gun.
Yeah, you'd have to. Anyway, so I just thought about
You'd have to have a little oxygen capsule in with the gunpowder.
maybe
Something like that.
something like that. Yeah.
Anyway, so
Anyways,
so at the end of this movie, Tom Hanks is just like, who's going to be the next generation to go to the moon?
and then
Could be you.
Could be you.
And so he just goes to a bunch of kids being like, I want to go to the moon. I want to be an astronaut, all this stuff.
It ends with a short clip with
we time travel into the future.
Yeah.
We follow one of these kids, Veronica.
And it's she becomes an astronaut on the moon.
And she's walking on the moon. She's like, Lunar Base 3, are you ready? And like a base lights up on the moon. And then an oxygen
Lunar Base
refinery.
4,
it's like a
are you
helium
ready?
3 refinery.
Yeah.
And the music swells.
It's like a little peek into the future of what may hold of us doing moon bases on the moon.
James Newton Howard's score swells.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, cool.
And then it ends.
Yeah.
And that's Magnificent Desolation, Walking on the Moon 3D, with John Travolta having one line of dialogue.
And we covered it.
Yeah. Here's the weird thing, though.
What?
This is maybe, in terms of multiplier, one of the most profitable movies we've ever covered.
No. What do you mean?
This movie cost $3 million.
Okay.
It made 40. And in terms of pure
how are we judging its box office?
This made like 13.25 its budget back.
How are we judging like its box office? Like people buying tickets to the IMAX theater or some shit?
Yeah. So here's the thing. This movie ran for 10 years.
Oh well, then yeah, of course anything's gonna make that much money
because it had an actual IMAX run when it first started. Like IMAX theaters showed it, but then it just stayed in planetariums and like big time IMAX theaters and whatnot. And so it just stuck around and it consistently made like $25,000 a week. Kes kept pushing and pushing and pushing until it's now at $40 million.
Wow.
Which is a huge profit over a long time, but it's a huge profit nonetheless.
I want to know which company, which source is reaping those benefits.
Production company is Playtone. It's a Tom Hanks company. It was distributed. It was like...
Good on you, Tom Hanks.
This movie was funded by NASA and IMAX and Tom Hanks' company. So, like, those are actually three companies I'm happy getting money.
Yeah, right.
Just, like, usually it's like, oh, fuck, Disney's going to make another billion
dollars, yeah.
But it's like, no, like, IMAX, I appreciate that they continue to distribute movies in their format. NASA could use the funding.
Yeah.
And Tom Hanks is a swell guy.
You good there?
Yeah, I'm good. So yeah, I'm happy this movie did well.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it. It almost made me cry. I really just I love the moon. I love space.
Yeah, I do too. A lot of the kids' moon landing stuff have always been kind of like, meh, all right.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like, I would say, like, I never forgot the names Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin. Like, you could not in my household. You always had to know Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin.
Star of The Boy in the Plastic Bubble.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess I leave off with this podcast recommending people watch Love, Death, and Robots.
Yeah.
And First Man.
I leave off reminding our audience to watch Transformers: Dark of the Moon, if only for the Buzz Aldrin cameo. We're halfway through. Actual Buzz Aldrin walks in. He looks at Optimus Prime and says, "From one space traveler to another, it sure is an honor. The honor is mine." Great movie. Thank you, folks, for listening. Oh, God. Next week, you have to look forward to our episode on the motion picture Lonely Hearts. Yeah!
That movie exists?
It does. Thank you for listening. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe on whatever platform you're listening. As a reminder, we are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. You can find us at Travolting Pod on Twitter or Instagram. You can email us, travoltingpodcast@gmail.com. You can find me on Twitter at Jeff W. Sweeney.
You can find me, fellow space traveler and Earthling, at Stuart Elmore 95.
You can also pop into our Reddit, r/Travolting. And as always, special thanks to Rebecca Johnson for our graphic design, Michael Van Bodegum Smith for the theme music that's taking it, and Nicole Johnson for our social. Have a great week, folks.
Nuke the moon.